In this video I'm going to present a model that I guess a lot of you have actually tried to build yourself, and that is not necessarily the Lexus CT200h, but build your own car, or as a child you want to build the car that your parents had. I bought my Lexus CT200h back in 2012, and since 2015 I tried to build the car. It is really a difficult car to build, but this is the result, finally done here in 2020, and this is what it looked like when I moved to Germany, with a big roof box on top in order to move a lot of stuff, and also having the bike in the back. In this video I'm going to destroy the model again to show you all the details. It has full interior, opening doors, bonnets. There I can show you the building techniques that I've been using in this model. I also have building instructions for this, both the my version here, but also a more accessible normal version here. You can see it in white. For both building instructions you can choose the color. Before we start doing all of that, let's head down to the real car and compare this model to it. As you can see, I have a lot of details in the front, so let's go through some of them. The hood is actually standing on a wedge shape, and that is because I want this middle line here to be protruding just a little bit more than the rest of the hood. It's almost invisible, and that is because on the real car it also has this slight curve in the bodywork, and I wanted to recreate that because otherwise it's a very flat bonnet. And you can also see the grille is quite special on this 2012 version of the CT because it has a thin chrome strip in the top and these small triangular parts near the headlights. And that I have tried to recreate with showing half of a plate of a chrome 1x3 tile in top and those cheese wedges in order to create those triangular sections of the bodywork. And that's also why I've wedged in these, you can barely see them, these curved pieces right here in order to separate it from the headlights. The headlights are these single halogen version, as you can see, that pretty much look like the real headlights and fog lights of the real car. From the side you can see a lot of other small details that you might enjoy when building this yourself. The first that really sticks out is the chrome surround that you have around the windows in the side. They are quite characteristic for this car, and they are of course recreated in the Lego model. There's also door handles. They are fairly high up on the real car, so it was difficult to build them into the side of the car without disturbing this nice and rounded line we have below the windows. The windows themselves are angled using hinges because that is what they are on the real car. You can see they're not going straight up. And we have the side mirrors, of course. They're very basic on the Lego car, just 1x1 tiles. The roof is curved. It is curved with this half plate offset because the real car has a slightly curved roof that kind of moves into a rounded shape toward the rear, and that is why on the Lego model it is also curving a bit in right here. In the interior we have dark red seats, a dark red center console, door claddings even in the back, if you can see it right here, and that is recreated in the Lego model. In the center console we have the cup holders, we have this opening compartment there, and even some interior details such as the electronic gear lever and this big volume knob. Moving on to the back, and now I really hope it doesn't fall down. The CT is quite characteristic, so trying to recreate those characteristics of the design was quite a challenge. First we have the windscreen here. It's kind of curving around the body just like the real one does. And we have the tiny spoiler on the real car. It's a bit more pronounced on the Lego model, but I'm okay with that. The rear lights are curving downward towards the middle and upward toward the sides using cheese slopes because that is how they designed the real car. We have the bumper that is sticking out a bit. Again, getting these curved details. We have a tile right there in order to help curve around like that. The bumper is sticking out a bit. We have parts down here that make sure that we have the correct curvature of the rear part of the car. And we have on the bottom here some reflectors, dark red reflectors there, and a fake grille. And that's because on the real car we have this tiny reflectors and a rear fake grille in the bottom. That's it for the design details and comparison to the real car. Let's get back inside. Now, before I'm going to break down the car, let's take a look at the creative process of actually building a model like this. I started building cars in scale 1 to 20 back in 2014. There was a competition, built a Seat in Lego, scale 1 to 20 to be displayed in Legoland. The winner would be displayed out there. And you might even still find this car out in the park in Billund. With years, new parts come, and when I started building the car back in 2015, some of these parts did not exist, such as the 2x2 curved parts here, of course, everything you see near the headlights. As time goes by, I keep iteratively improving the designs. But before I get to the iterative process of doing that, I need to start somewhere. And that's why I'm using Grille, overlaying pictures of the real car, as you can see here, and I'm using measurements in order to make a base skeleton. The best illustration for this is taking the roof box. The roof box of the real one, when scaled down 1 to 20, is this size: 6 wide, this length, this height. And then, keeping this on hand, I built a full roof box, and I try to recreate as many of the details as possible of the real design. And as you can see, this is the first model. It's very detailed, has a lot of curvature from the real thing, but it's also too big. This just being an early prototype, I finished the build and I started over, ending up with this design. As you can see, it has the same locking mechanism, but it is much simpler. The design down the sides is not as detailed, but it is also not as tall, and it actually looks more like the real thing. That is the creative process. I find the measurements, I use Grille, I make prototypes, I rebuild everything until I'm satisfied with the result. And in this case, this is the result that I'm happy with. The car took many more iterations, but that's just how it goes. So let's start breaking down the car and see how it is constructed. Okay, let's start with the front. Up here, you can see there's a lot of things going on with the nose of this car. It's really a lot of pieces that are angled in different ways. If we take the hood, you can see it's actually having an angle. So these parts here form just a slight V shape, and that is because everything of the hood is mounted on V-shaped parts like that. So it's really just making a slight angle forward like that. So this is like an arrow shape. And in order to get these parts of the grille to hinge from the top, I'm using this fairly new piece with the studs on the upper side in order to turn it around on this very old 1x4 Technic plate, and that solves the issue of getting the chrome pieces mounted upside down so we have the right angle. Looking into the engine compartment here, I tried to do a small mock-up of the tiny engine this car has. The grille design shows just half a plate of chrome that is done by, let's take this out, using air links like this, covering half of the height, the visual height from the outside, and using this new part, 1x1 hinge up. And of course that's a custom sticker I put on the front. By doing this I get a slight curve that goes upward with the grille, just like on the real car. Moving on into the front, you can see I'm having these curved 1x2 pieces mounted using 2 angles of freedom with the robot's bar hands, in order to cover up the headlights and make a visual distinction between the headlights and the chrome parts of the hood. The headlights themselves are angled very primitively on just a single hinge. Very late in the design process I added these little corners here, again using the 1x1 hinge that goes upwards, and then also this quarter circle part that came out not that long ago. In order to make space for all of this craziness, I'm using a hinge here to hold the license plate. You can see it's very thin, and the bottom lip is just a simple design like that clips onto a couple of studs. The wheel wells here in the top are also just simple hinges in order to give this rounded effect that you have up there. The windscreen took quite a long time to design, but it's just hinged here on the bottom. The roof is detachable in one part like this, and it gives access to the interior. And if we are opening a door or two, then it will be easier to see. Now this is not a sturdy design because you can see here, I wanted to have the windows being able to tilt a bit inwards so that you get this correct curvature of the doors. But that of course comes with the problem that this is not a sturdy design. The doors are double hinged in order to make them actually openable. And here you can see, if I'm taking off the door, that the windows are hinged like this in order to give you the right angle. The same with the rear doors. If I open it here, you can see it does open, and I have a picture here showing everything can open correctly. And again, if you take it off, you can see that I've hinged the window so that it can give you the right curvature. Looking inside of the car, if I'm removing this support for the roof and maybe giving you some more light by taking off the windscreen, you can see here it's fairly simple construction. I'm using the studs of this 1x5 here in order to make sure that we have this half plate difference to the sides. Looking inside, I have my custom dark red leather interior. The rear seats here are solid studs up in order to support the roof. The front seats are adjustable, both the headrest and the backs of the seat, and you can see it has this very nice and supportive design. If you take out the passenger seat, you can better see the compartment here in the middle. This opens, revealing the compartment just like in the real car. In the real car you have this big knob for drive mode select. This is the gear stick, or the one you choose to go forward and backward with. And of course the car door also has this red leather insert just like in the real model. And onto the rear, you can see with a lot of reflections that we have the curved bumper really hinged down here. You shouldn't be able to open that, but it's just to get the right curvature of the bumper, and a lot of snot elements in order to create the right curvature below with the fake grille openings and how the sculpted sides go up toward the rear lights. Again, the logo, just a sticker, and we can open this part. Open the rear hatch to reveal the small boot down here. Down again, tiny windows here in the back, just like on the real car. And this took me forever to figure out how to do correctly, but it has this chrome surround of the windows that looks like this, and I really wanted to recreate that as faithfully as possible. Finally, we have the hybrid logo down here, not a sticker, just a dark blue plate, and that finishes the details I wanted to highlight in this Lego model of the CT200h. As for the white model, this is really the one that I recommend that you build if you want to build your own. It is a fun build because it's super detailed. It's also really difficult to build because it is super detailed. The interior here is tan instead of dark red. Doors open. The interior compartment opens. And as you can see here, I'm using a grille instead of the 1x2 tile from the black version because that is easier to come by. I think it's a fun model to build. It took me 3.5 hours to build this model here, and it has a lot of crazy details. Everything from how this whole reassembly is built to, of course, the front that is crazy. You don't have to add Lexus stickers in order for it to actually look like the real thing, and it will keep you occupied for quite some time to build it. And that's it for this video. I know some of you might have been quite disappointed in hearing that I have built my own car and then it turns out to be the Lexus CT and not the more obvious fun choice that I have parked in the basement. Feel free to come with suggestions for cars that you would like to see. It doesn't have to take 5 years to finish your model. The Corvette that I have only took roughly 3 months, and 3 months is typically the time it takes for me to finish a proper Lego model in this scale. I'm also looking into more trucks and robots. We'll see what kind of content I will be adding to this channel. Feel free to add comments, Give me suggestions of what you would like to see. Otherwise, take care, never stop creating, have fun. See you next time.